You're listening to BBC Radio London. Now to a charity that you may or may not be familiar with, but when you hear about what they're doing, how it started and the people who run it, trust me, you're going to be astounded. It's a charity run from the UK but works across the subcontinent in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and it's having such an enormous impact on thousands of people's lives. There's a strong case actually for it to go global. What is it? It's Carers Worldwide. It was founded by Anil Patil from Hertfordshire and his wife Ruth. For them, the charity isn't just a job, it's personal. Anil worked in villages of India and saw firsthand the stigma and hardship facing carers of people with disabilities and also mental illness. He's also a carer for his daughter Maya, who has Down syndrome. When a little over 10 years that Carers Worldwide has been going, they've worked with 250,000 carers and even more families. It's a privilege to say Anil and Ruth join me here in the studio this evening. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for coming in. The story is an amazing one. Anil, if I can start with you, what led you to set up Carers Worldwide?
Thank you so much, Asad, for having us here. Two things have inspired me to think about the issue of unpaid family carers and led me to set up Carers Worldwide. One was, as you rightly said, I grew up in India, and when I was working in rural areas, I met with a woman. She was clearly suffering from mental illness, and she didn't had any clothes or anything. Children were throwing stone at her, and adults were just sitting, doing nothing about it. And that image really disturbed me quite a lot. If I was thinking, if I were in her position, how I would have felt. So I wanted to help her and do something about it. But unfortunately, in the organization where I was working, we were stretched. So I had to leave that job and to support her, and became part of another organization called Basic Needs. And that's how I started working in the field of mental health in rural areas.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's a very powerful image, isn't it? And I can understand why that remained with you, a woman with a mental illness, clearly having mental problems, walking through a village in India, not wearing any clothes because obviously the state of mental health she was in, and children throwing stones at her and people just watching it, letting it happen. I can understand why that almost haunted you.
Yeah, no, really, as I said, I didn't sleep for a week. I felt guilty about not being able to help her. And that really led me to start learning more about mental illness and wanting to do something about it. Then I traveled across India with one of my friends, trying to understand the issue of mental illness, particularly in rural India, where many of these services are catered only in urban areas, psychiatrists, psychologists and all. It was a dream come true for people suffering from mental illness in rural areas. Then in 2001, we set up an organization and I started working on community-based rehabilitation for people with mental illness. So during that time, I used to meet with many families who have been caring for their loved one, obviously suffering from severe mental illness. So they used to ask several questions. Why this happened to us? What did we do? You know, Asad, in our South Asian culture, we have lot of belief systems, like past karma, or somebody has done it, witchcraft or sin and all.
And it spans religions, doesn't it? It's not like one faith that thinks like that. It's all people.
All people. And so whatever knowledge I gained, I was able to respond to that question adequately. I wouldn't say satisfactorily, but adequately. But the second question, which had a huge impact on me, and I didn't think about that, the question from the family members who are caring their loved one, was, what happens if I die tomorrow? Who is going to look after my loved one? Obviously, that was keeping them awake in the night, and that was worrying them. If something happens to me, whether my rest of the family member are able to look after my husband or my wife or my father.
Because Ruth, in India, there isn't that care structure, although India is very well known for large family supportive structures. When it comes to mental illness, disabilities, it's lacking there, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, you're right. There's a real lack of infrastructure when it comes to disability services, mental health services. You know, we know that people living in rural areas, it's almost impossible for them to access the medical care that they need, the education that they need, employment opportunities, and so on. So it's a huge issue. You know, these families are left without any manner of support. You know, imagine having a child born disabled. First of all, you maybe don't understand what's happened to them, and there's no way for you to find out about their condition and how to help them. So that in itself is a huge stress for families. And
as Anil was mentioning, there's a real stigma attached to mental illness and disability, I have to say, as well, in large swathes of India, Pakistan, the subcontinent as well. How do you tackle something like that? Because it's very ingrained in people, that stigma.
Absolutely. It's not easy and it's not quick. So we partner with local organisations. So we don't kind of parachute ourselves in and you know, do various interventions. We seek out local charities who are working with disability and in the mental health space, and we partner with them. So they're already really well connected in their communities. They're trusted, they're respected by the communities. And it's really them that do a lot of the legwork, if you like. So there's a lot of awareness work that goes on, and that's done in, you know, various culturally appropriate ways. So, you know, through song, through posters and paintings, through radio shows, and all of that slowly starts to change the attitudes.
And Anil, you were mentioning that after you had that disturbing coming across of the woman with a mental illness in India, in a village in India, that it motivated you to get involved with charities and help when it came to mental illness in India. But there came a point where you decided to set up carers worldwide. Why did you decide to set up your own charity rather than perhaps assist with the charities you've been helping? What's different about your charity which the other charities weren't doing?
That's a very good question, Asad. So most of the charities were focused on the condition specific, whether it is mental health or disability or HIV/AIDS or elderly issues. Of course, all of them were using carers, building their capacity, transferring skills and all. But no one was asking the question to the family members or carers, how are you? Do you need any help or do you need any support? Of course, carers are very proud to be caring for someone they love dearly. But end of the day, because of long-term care having a significant impact on their health and well-being, financial difficulties, they were feeling lonely, they were feeling isolated and worrying about what is going to happen. So there was no organization working on the issue of carers. Of course, in UK and in Europe, there are many organizations working on the issue of family carers. Like in UK, we have Carers Trust and Carers UK is there. But in low and middle income countries, like in South Asia particularly, we are the only organization working on this issue, not just highlighting the issue of carers, but also developed a model how we can provide the support to carers, address their issues holistically. And also, Asad, you rightly so, in the beginning you mentioned, in South Asia, general opinion or view is that, isn't it family members supposed to look after? Yeah. Of course, many family members do look after, but if you go back 20 to 25 years ago, we had a concept of joint family, extended family, but now more and more nuclear families, and both husband and wife are working. And because of caring responsibility, many carers are women. In our survey we done, 84%, in some countries it goes up to 97% of carers are women and girls who are looking after, and they have given up their career to look after their loved one. So they had their own aspiration, dream and hopes, but completely dashed. But there is no platform for them to voice their concerns, highlight their issues, or talk about the difficulties they are going through. And as I said, since we became a carer, Ruth and myself, to our beautiful daughter Maya, she inspired us how much impact it had on us. We don't wanted others to have the similar kind of situation. There is a hope is there. There is a support mechanism is there. What is it we can do together so that you are no more feeling lonely, isolated, but you are empowered and supported. You are not excluded. You are
so
included.
Your daughter Maya helped again to motivate you to spread the message of caring and support and welfare of carers to many thousands of people. Now, one thing that really fascinated me about Carers Worldwide when I read the report which was produced about the work you're doing, and I read it cover to cover, was how you have instigated what I would have classed as being nigh on impossible, and that is you have managed to change policy in India in order to benefit carers, and if I remember correctly, even give them some sort of money, some sort of like payment, which I just didn't think would be possible across India and the subcontinent. Ruth, tell us how you did that, and what is this policy change?
Okay, so policy change is huge in any country. I think, we all recognise that governments are big machines, and it takes a long time to, be able to influence them and to bring policies to fruition. So basically, this is something we've been working on right from the beginning. So we've been going for 12 years now. And we've always said that we want to achieve that policy change, that systems change, as well as achieve change for individual carers. Nothing is going to change in the long run if we don't get changes at the level of government. So it's taken a lot of hard work. It's taken a lot of time by people who are on the ground in India. But basically, we've been able to take one of the acts that's there in India, so the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, and we've been able to look at that and identify ways that can be used not only to help people with disabilities, but also their carers. And so the significant change that we've managed to achieve is introducing a carers allowance. So this is a monetary allowance that will be paid monthly to carers.
Paid by government?
Paid by government.
Wow.
So we've achieved that in one of the states of India, Karnataka state in the south, which is a huge state.
It is. I was going to say, it may sound like one state, but it's a massive state, isn't it, with millions of people there.
I think it's the size of the UK.
Yeah.
So we've managed to secure that. It's in the budget for the state government for this coming year, and they're actually going to be making the first awards tomorrow. Which is huge. Yeah. Tomorrow is World Disability Day,
yes,
which is celebrated all over the world. And the government in Karnataka has recognised the contribution of carers and how important they are in those disabled people's lives.
So let me get this straight. Tomorrow, the first carers or group of carers will receive money from the government as part of this policy change, which Carers Worldwide have helped to implement and change the minds of government.
That's right.
That's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing achievement. If that was, I don't know, a charity known around the world, I would say, God, that's really quite something you've done. You're a husband and wife who set up this charity just by seeing, the need for it. For you to achieve this, for you to have that reach across such large parts of India, across so many people, how do you do it? What motivates you? Oh, okay, no, not what motivates you, because you've kind of explained that. How do you do it? How, when you're faced with the huge wall which is the Indian government in the country of India, the size and number of people, what is it that makes you think, yeah, we can do this?
I think three things here, Asad. One is sharing your personal experience of being a carer and what motivated and all. And the second one is I realized that the issue of caring is connected to everybody. like one of the realization I had during last 10 to 12 years is all of us, one or the other day, we all will become either carer or somebody will be caring us during our lifetime. When I start sharing the stories of some of the carers, how their life was, how their life had changed, even to the policymakers, ministers, they were start talking about either their own journey of being a carer or someone within their family is having. In fact, I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. And when I narrated the story, he said, Anil, you have opened my eyes. I never thought about this issue. You remember in 1984 when he met with an accident, it was his wife who was there day in, day out.
He was filming, wasn't he?
He was filming.
Injured himself.
That's
right.
right.
I remember
That's
that.
right. And he said, whole country prayed for my speedy recovery and well-being, but nobody talked about my wife. You made me to think about this issue. So I will go tonight and say thank you to Jai Baduri. So this is it I'm talking about. And similarly, the former president of India, when I went to receive an award from him, his wife was diagnosed with terminal illness, and he was talking about Anil. Yes, I have the resources, but end of the day, I'm her husband. Yeah. And we used to share meals together, but unfortunately, because of her condition, we can't. So really, you opened my eyes. His eyes were welled up. So this is the second one. Yeah. Third one is, it's a non-controversial. Everybody gets the message. Unlike climate change, for example, there are some people who believe, some people who don't. But this issue, nobody denies that. That's so as Ruth has mentioned, our strength is working through local partners and transforming the lives of individual carers, creating these platforms for carers to come together, amplify their voices, advocate for their rights, advocate for their recognition, submitting a memorandum. So creating this pressure group from the bottom up has made it has been a very challenging and tough, but it was equally rewarding as well.
I've no doubt how difficult it will have been, but like I say, you've carried on and look at the results that you have produced. It's incredible. And Ruth, I understand you've got a festive appeal which you've launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We have indeed, yes. So just last Thursday, we launched our festive appeal. We try and do this every year as a way of just raising additional funds for the charity. So the appeal this year is going to show us the impact of the kinds of interventions that we carry out with carers. We're going to show that impact through the eyes of one particular carer who lives in Bangladesh. And so she's been very involved in creating this appeal. We've got lots of amazing stories from her, photographs, videos, and so on, which we will be sharing over the coming month. And the idea is that people will learn about caring, about carers. They'll learn about the different aspects of a carer's life which are challenging and how those different parts of life can be supported. And hopefully in that way, people will be interested and encouraged to find out more about what we do and hopefully to dig a little bit in their pockets as well.
I'll tell you what, Ruth, I'm going to ask you how people can find out more about Carers Worldwide in just a moment. But I just want to ask, what it's called Carers Worldwide. You focus on India, Nepal, Bangladesh, the subcontinent. Surely there's a case with the success you've had, with the changes you've brought about. Surely people listening will say, why isn't this happening around the world, in other parts? Is there an answer to that? Are there plans for that?
Absolutely, Asad. In fact, recently I visited Pakistan, and we have plans to expand our work into Pakistan, and I also probably next year will be expanding our work into Africa as well. Based on the learnings from South Asia, we'll be taking into Africa. One of our dream is Asad, is our ultimate goal is it's a simple but very bold. We want Carers Worldwide to become redundant. carers issue to be included.
Yeah.
In day-to-day, in all policies and practices, carers are to be empowered. Like now the gender issue is everywhere, like inclusion is everywhere, whether it is corporates or charities or government and like that, carers to be part of that. So, and until then, we will be continue to amplify the voices of carers, creating platform for carers to come together to advocate for their rights, advocate for their services, as well as meeting their needs and empowering them.
It's wonderful. Now, Ruth, people listening might want to find out more about Carers Worldwide. They might want to donate, learn more about, like you say, the festive appeal. How do they do it?
Sure. So we have a website, and that's carersworldwide.org. So you can go on there and have a look around. Lots of information, lots of stories, lots of wonderful pictures and videos. We're also on social media at Carers Worldwide. The festive appeal itself, if you go again to the website, carersworldwide.org/festive-appeal-2024, that will take you to the appeal page where you'll be able to learn all about Amina from Bangladesh, her daughter Sumi, who has Down syndrome, and her son Noor, who is deaf. So we hope that you will take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I have looked at the website, I've read your reports and stuff, and although you've given us a taster of Carers Worldwide, I found that the more I learnt about it, the more I was amazed. It kind of really draws you in, and the way you see that lives have changed because of the work that both of you started, just over a decade ago, is extraordinary. I know there'll be millions of people out there who from tomorrow will start benefiting from the hard work you've done, who won't get the chance to say thank you to you in person, but I know they would want to do that. So on behalf of them, thank you for everything you're doing, and I really wish Carers Worldwide the best of success in the future, and let's keep in touch. Anil and Ruth Patil, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
BBC Radio London.
That's Chura Liya Hai Tumne by Asha Bhosle and Mohammed Rafi. Before that, I was speaking to Anil and Ruth Patil, the founders of Carers Worldwide, an incredible charity bringing support to carers of people with mental illnesses and disabilities across the subcontinent. They started it themselves just around about a decade ago, and they've actually got the Indian government to change their policy regarding one state in India, so that from tomorrow, millions of people will be entitled to get some form of money for being carers to their loved ones. It's an incredible story. You can go onto the Carers Worldwide website to find out more. And just so you know, that's a track we just heard, Asha Bhosle. Asha, Anil was telling me, is the name of his daughter. The other daughter is called Maya. And so he smiled when that track of Asha Bhosle came on. My thanks to them for coming in.